So you've been at this, like we mentioned a couple times, for over 50 years. You'd be a good person to ask this. This actually is a pretty common question in the HerbRally community. When do you get to call yourself an herbalist?
Yeah, there is no particular place. And that's unfortunate in a way, because considering that there are no standards, I got a newsletter the other day from someone who was her first newsletter, and she had just graduated from herb school and established her own school. Well, she'd gone to herb school for 1 year, and now she was the teacher of teachers, and the newsletter was something like, I'm finally there, I've opened up my own school, and this is my first newsletter. I'm sure she learned something in herb school, but she certainly wasn't very seasoned. Was she really in a position to teach people what she had just barely learned?
Sure.
So yeah, everything is so new in our culture that we have this problem now of rapidly rotating teachers. Mm-hmm. People graduate from, whether it's naturopathic school or whatever, and they're a professor, the next year, and they don't have any, any seasoning. So it's going to work its way out eventually. It's just because it's so new.
Yeah, I always bring this up. Paul Bergner has a class. Every decade he changes the name, but it's how to be a master herbalist in 50 years.
Yeah, right.
It's like kind of tongue in cheek. And then we asked Howie Brownstein the same question, and he's like, I think after 40 years, I could finally call myself an herbalist. So.
Yeah, it's really true. All of us have the feeling that we're drinking from a fire hose, and it wasn't like that in the beginning, but it's been like that for many years now. And some colleague will say, "Oh, I saw so and so speak at a conference, and I think I'm going to go be a grocery checker at Safeway because I'm not, anywhere close to that level of that person." But then everybody else says that same thing about her.
Sure. Right.
It's just way too much. You can't absorb even a tiny fraction of everything there is to know. So you get good at it. I don't know if it's a matter of time or just experience, but there is no cut point where you get an official stamp of approval. We do have these credentials, like the American Herbalist Guild. I was on the admissions committee for a while. I'm no longer there, but reviewing applications of people who want that credential. And that credential is a beginning level of competence. It's like a medical doctor getting their doctorate, but they have not yet been an intern or a resident.
Right.
And they don't have 10 years of doing the same surgery or whatever it is. So that would be a minimum, and there's some other credentials around that would give, not necessarily in herbalism, but in allied fields that would at least give a sense that you've been evaluated. I have a doctorate in Ayurveda, for example, and so there were minimum competency requirements and minimum, practice requirements for that. So there are some things around, and those add to the credibility for people.
So you're Dr. Khalsa?
Well, if you use that,
yeah. I guess if I did take your class in 2008, theoretically, that's 15 years ago. I still struggle with saying I'm an herbalist. Then again, I'm not a clinical herbalist, and I don't rigorously study all the time either. I've taken 2 herbal apprenticeships with at the Arctos School in Portland, and then with Howie and at the Columbine School. But yeah, I still kind of struggle with that title. It's all good. I run a herbalism website and podcast, but yeah, like you said, it's the fire hose. It's just so fun just to keep learning and growing and
For sure.
Talking plants with people. So